excuse me, and sharing my screen. And for those of you who were here early, I apologize. I don't mean to be redundant, but wow, we're finished with new content. All that we have left to do is review. What I'd like to do today is go over a version of the problem set, the review for exam 4. And then Friday and Monday, I'd like to go over a problem set for the final, a review for the final. Monday, I will be taking attendance. It will be the last day that I take attendance. Wednesday, I will be in Zoom in case anybody has last minute questions before they take their final, if they're taking their final. Friday, I could be in Zoom if people were interested, but if nobody has a need, I'm not gonna, wait for hours. So I guess if you want to meet on not this Friday, but next Friday, Friday the 7th, please let me know. Homework 5.2, which is your right triangle trig, is due today. Homework 5.8, which are those applications, are due on Friday. Problem set 4, and again, this is a must do. This counts as a quiz grade. Needs to be done by the end of the day on Sunday. Exam 4 will be available from tomorrow till Sunday. Realize that is a Sunday. And it's due, I'm sorry, no, it isn't a Sunday. Let's try that again. That's a Saturday. Why am I misspeaking? That's Saturday. It will be due by 11:59. Again, I want them done by Saturday. So you can look at your grades on Monday and see, have them graded before Monday so that you can see whether you want to take the final. The problem set final is a quiz grade, and again, everybody must take it. The final exam will be available next week from the 3rd to the 5th, from Monday to Wednesday. And again, this will be optional. If you take it, I will drop the lowest test grade. If you don't take it, then no grades will be dropped. It will be as if the final exam was the dropped grade. For both the exam and the final, you must submit your work in the Blackboard Dropbox. If there is no work submitted in Blackboard, the grade will not carry over from MyLabs to Blackboard, and it needs to be in Blackboard to count towards your average. You must submit your work. And again, I apologize, I misspoke. That problem set 4 and that exam 4 must be done by the end of the day on Saturday. Saturday. Does anybody have questions on any of that?
For the finals, do we need to submit like work?
Yes.
On Blackboard?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, for both the final and the test. You don't have to for the problem set, but you do have to for the final and for the test. The reason you don't have to for the problem sets is because up until the time they're due, you can take it over and over and over again. And so because you have the opportunity to redo it for a better grade, and also if you're taking the test in the final, if the more you redo it, the better you'll do on the test and on the final. And so that's why I don't ask you to submit pictures of that work, because in theory, you could take it up to 100 times if you wanted to. So,
okay.
Before we get started looking at that practice test 4, does anybody want to look at anything from any of the homework?
No.
I'm taking that as a no. And so let's go through and let's look at that problem set 4 so that we know what is on test 4. Again, this is everything that we've covered since the last test, which dealt with quadratics. Excuse me. So first asks you to solve the system by the substitution method. again, when I look at your work, if they ask you to use a specific method, I am looking for the work to support that. So over here, to use the substitution method, we had said the first thing we wanted to do was solve for one of the variables, and that's been done for us already. And so now we're going to go to that other equation, x plus 2y equals 6. And we'll replace y with what it's equal to, 2x minus 2. That gives us an equation to solve just for x. Let's distribute, combine, and solve first by adding the 4 to get 5x equals 10. Then dividing by 5, we get x equals 2. Now that we know x, we'll substitute into that y equals 2x minus 2 to find y, which will give us y equals 2. And so our solution would be the ordered pair 2, 2. And so solution is the ordered pair 2, 2. Again, when you're taking a test, I would hope that you would take the time to check. And so if I look at the check, x plus 2y equals 6, x is 2 and y is also 2. 2 plus 2 times 2 is 6, and it checks. And then the other y equals 2x minus 2, y is 2, x is 2. 2 equals 4 minus 2, so it also checks. Does anybody have questions on that one? The next system asks you to solve by the method of your choice. Again, if it were in a different format, I would probably use that addition or elimination method. But because this is solved for x, that tells me I want to try to use substitution. So in that other equation, 2 times x minus 14y equals 2. And for x, I'm putting in 7y plus 1. Distributing gives me 14y plus 2 minus 14y equals 2. Simplifying, let's see, 14y minus 14y, that's 0. So I get 2 equals 2. I'm going to look at this equation and I'm going to say, hey, wait a minute, there's no variables left. Is that true or is that false? 2 equals 2 is true. So this is one of those examples where there's an infinite number of solutions. The set of all ordered pairs so that x satisfies the equation. How is that one? Any questions?
No.
Then question 3 says a company that manufactures small canoes has a fixed cost of $22,000 and it costs $20 to produce each canoe. The selling price is $40 for a canoe. They're telling us to let X equal the number of canoes produced and sold. The cost function, well, the cost is the total of the fixed costs and the variable costs. And so, I apologize. The cost function is going to be that $22,000. They have to pay that. And they have to pay $20 for each canoe. So the cost function is going to be 22,000 plus 20x. Is everybody comfortable with that expression? Any
Yeah.
questions? So that the revenue function What money do they make? They make $40 for each canoe. So this is like saying y equals 22,000 plus 20x. This is like saying y equals 40x. The break-even point would be where the two are equal. It would be solving the system. I'm going to solve this by substitution, substituting in the 40x, pardon me, for the y in the other one. Subtracting gives me 20x is equal to 22,000. And so dividing, I get x equals, 1,100. Now they ask us to give an ordered pair, so let's find y. If I use y equals 40x, 40 times 1,100 would give me 44,000. So the break-even point would be x is 40, oh, I'm sorry, x is 11,000, I'm misreading. No, let's try that again, 1,100. And it's not going to fit on that line, so x is 1,100. And y is 44,000. Please notice they tell you not to use a comma in the larger numbers because we don't want that comma to be confused with a comma between the x and the y value. This means that when the company produces and sells the break-even number of canoes, the money coming in is equal to the money going out. How is everybody with that one? Then beyond systems, most of the rest of what we were doing worked with angles and trigonometry. Convert the angles in degrees to radians. Well, remember our conversion fact deals with the fact that pi radians is equal to 180 degrees. And so we're going to make a fraction of that. Over here, I have the 229 degrees. I'm going to multiply it by the fraction pi over 180. I want the degrees to be on the diagonal from each other. So that gives me 229 pi over 180. That would be the radian measure, but they don't ask for it in terms of pi, but rather they want it to 2 decimal places. And so to get that to 2 decimal places, what we'd need to do is take 229 times pi and divide it by that 180. And so 2 decimal places, what I get is 3.9968, and it goes on from there. So to 2 decimal places, I like round up, so I get 4.00. Is everybody all right with that one? Not hearing any questions. The second one that asks me to change the radians into degrees. I have -2 pi. This time I'm going to invert that conversion fact and multiply it by 180 over pi so that the radians cancel. At that same time, the pi's will cancel. So I get -2 times 180, which is -360 degrees. Next one asks us to draw the angle in standard position and write the quadrant in which it lies. Work the exercise without converting to degrees. So if I were to do this without converting to degrees, if I were to draw this freehand in radians, I know that 180 degrees is pi radians, 7 pi, and every time, so this would be pi over 2, and that midway point would be pi over 4. And so every time I go over like a half a quadrant, eighth of the circle, I'm moving pi over 4. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, 7/4. This would be my 7 pi over 4. And so I've got A. And that puts me in quadrant 4. Is everybody comfortable with that one? Then the next one asks us to find a coterminal angle. Coterminal angles differ by 180 degrees if you're working in degrees. Differ by 2 pi if we're working in radians. The angle that we have is negative. And so in order to get a positive angle, what we want to do is we want to add 2 pi to that angle. Because we're adding with fractions, we need a common denominator, which would be 5. And so 2 pi would be like 10 pi over 5. First time I add 10 pi over 5, I've got negative 13 pi over 5, which is still negative. So I'll add another 2 pi, or 10 pi over 5, which gives me negative 3 pi over 5, which is still negative. So I'll add another 2 pi, or another 10 pi over 5, which gives me 7 pi over 5. That's positive. 7/5 is smaller than 2. And so this will be my final answer. Is that one all right?
But I would like to know why you did 10 pi over 5. I thought it was like you want to add like 2 pi.
Yeah, you're supposed to add 2 pi. But think about when you add fractions. In order to add with fractions, I'm going to just take the numbers off of that. I've got negative 23 over 5 plus 2. Remember, to add with fractions, you need that common denominator.
Yeah.
So 2 is equivalent to 10/5. And so that's why 10 pi over 5 is equal to 2 pi. It's equivalent. I'm just getting a common denominator to add my fractions.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for asking. Next one asks, they give you the triangles. They ask you to find the value of pi over 3. Now, do any of you remember offhand, pi over 3 radians is how many degrees? Let's go through and change that into degrees. The pi's would cancel, leaving me with 180 over 3, or 60 degrees. 60 degrees means I'm using that second triangle. If you use whatever memory aid you have, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. My reference angle is at 60 degrees. So opposite is radical 3. And so we get radical 3 over the hypotenuse is 2. Is everybody all right with that one? If so, next one asks us to use our calculator to find the value. When I go through to do this, is everybody comfortable with the idea that that 4 pi over 15 tells me that I'm working with radians? So I want to make sure that my calculator is speaking in radians. Right now, as I look at my display, it says DEG. I don't want degrees, I want radians. So I'm going to press that degree button, arrow over to radians, and now my calculator is in radians. Make sure you pay attention to that mode. Now I'm going to just find the cosine of 4 pi divided by 15. And I get to 4 decimal places, 0.6691. Is everybody else getting that same decimal? Well, next one asks me to find the angle in radians. So again, I want to make sure that I'm in radian mode. And then does everybody remember to find the angle? We have to use the inverse function. So we have to use that second or shift button first. Again, I'm still in radians. So I'm going to leave that be, but I'm going to go second cosine. And I'll type in my 0.1814. And to 3 decimal places, I get 1.388 radians. Is everybody comfortable with that one? Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Then next one says a tower 127 feet long casts a shadow 138 feet. Find the angle of elevation to the sun to the nearest degree. Again, here they drew the picture for us, but hopefully everybody could draw this picture on their own. We have this tower. We're on level ground, so the tower is perpendicular to the ground. The shadow is on the ground. The sun would be on the opposite side as the shadow. And from the tip of the shadow to the tip of the tower would give me that angle that I'm looking for. Again, if you need to use a memory aid, what I notice about this problem is that I have the 2 legs and not the hypotenuse. And so that tells me that I'm going to use the tangent. So the tangent is opposite. Opposite the angle is the 127 over adjacent. Adjacent to the angle is the shadow. And then that's all our work outside of using our calculator. However, I want to warn you folks, be very, very, very careful. This says to the nearest degree. And the last time I used my calculator, I was in radians. So I'm going to go through and take my calculator and put it back in degrees. And the reason I'm making a big deal about it is because every semester there are students that have what would be the right angle, but they're speaking the wrong language. We want to be in degrees here because I'm looking for the angle. I'll press my second button. Second tangent of the fraction 127 divided by 138 gives me to the nearest degree. Let's see, I get theta is 42.62. rounding rules, I'd round that up to 43 degrees. Is that one all right? Can I scroll up?
Yeah.
Next one, we're asked to solve the right triangle. And again, when we solve the right triangle, it means we have to find all the missing parts. So I know that over here, little a is 13. I know over here, little b is 20.4. First, they're asking for little c. And because I know two sides to find the hypotenuse, I'll use my Pythagorean theorem. So that gives me c squared is 13 squared plus 20.4 squared. So with my calculator, I'll take 13 squared plus 20.4 squared. Notice I'm not bothering to stop and write down the separate answers. I can put that all right in my calculator. Gives me c squared is 585.16. And so now I'm going to take the square root of that, last answer, and get that c is 24.19008, and it keeps on going to the nearest hundredth. I'd say that c is 24.19. In terms of the angles, I think the easiest is angle C. It's 90 degrees. In terms of the acute angles A and B, I could use any of the trig functions to find them. However, I was always taught to use the given values and not your last answer in case there was an issue with your last answer. So I'm going to use tangent. So we'll say that the tangent of angle A would be little a over little b, which would be 13 over 20.4. And for that part, my work is done now other than typing. Remember, to find the angle, we need to press that second first. Second, tangent 13 over 20.4 gives me to the nearest tenth, 32.5. And then to find the tangent of angle, the measure of angle B, pardon me, we could use tangent again, or we could make use of the fact that the sum of the acute angles is 90 degrees. And so I can just take 90 minus 32.5, which gives me 57.5 degrees. Again, on the test, questions are pooled. On the problem set, questions are pooled. And so this one, we were given the two legs. We could use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side. Take the problem set a couple of times because there are different combinations of information that would have us attack the problems in a different order. Does anybody have any questions on this problem? Then next question asks us to find the bearing from O to A. Does everybody notice that A is above the horizontal? So the first will be N. And A is heading northeast. The last will be east. Where you have to be careful is the angle. with bearings, the angle that we want is always the angle drawn from the vertical. And so this angle would be 90 minus the 69, which would give me 21 degrees. Is that one all right? If so, next one asks us to find the length x to the nearest whole number. And again, these were what we were looking at last class. Last class, we had said that we could only work with right triangles. And so in here, I see this blue right triangle. And in that one, I can find the length of this entire side. I'll call it y. And this lower right triangle, which I'm highlighting in red, we can find the length of that side. I'll call it z. And we'll be able to say that x is equal to y minus z. In order to find y, well, in that blue triangle, y is a leg. We know another leg. So with the two legs, we'll use tangent. So tangent of that larger angle, 34, would be opposite y over adjacent 530. Cross multiplying, I'll get y equals 530 times the tangent of 34. I'm going to stop there. I don't care what that number is. I care what that expression is. Then in the red triangle, again, I have the legs. So I'll have the tangent of that angle, 30, is equal to z over 530. And so cross multiplying, I'll get z equals 530 times the tangent of 30. And now x is the difference of those. So x is y, which is 530 tan 34 minus z, which is 530 times the tangent of 30. Again, we want to be real careful. We should be in degrees. The last question was a degree question, so I don't need to change. I'm going to type 530 tan 34. Close that parentheses that your calculator opened, minus 530 tan 30. Close that parentheses that your calculator opened. And so when I hit equal, I get x is 51.493, and it keeps on going. To the nearest whole number, I would say that x is 51. See how it says do not round until the final answer. If we rounded early, our answer might be different. So type the expressions in your calculator. Don't write down numbers half the way through, because if you do that, you will be rounding. Again, there are many variations on this theme. Make sure you do the problem set more than once so that you see all of the possibilities of given information. I know we did a couple of problems like that last class. Is this okay? Are you guys comfortable?
Yeah.
Then question 15 says that a boat leaves the entrance to a harbor and travels 175 miles on a bearing of north 56 degrees east. How many miles north and how many miles east from the harbor has the boat traveled? Well, I guess here we're going to have to draw a diagram. It involves bearings. I'm going to have this be my harbor. And now my boat is going north 56 degrees east. And it's going for a distance of 175 miles. And so here's where my boat is. I guess it's a pirate ship. It's all in black. And so now I'm going to drop a perpendicular. I guess I could put it there, or thinking about it, I could also put my perpendicular here. And I think I'd rather put my perpendicular here, because then my 56-degree angle is within my triangle. The distance north, that would be this. I'll call it X. In that right triangle, if this is my 56-degree angle, X is the adjacent leg. 175 is the hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. And so I get that the cosine of 56 degrees is X over 175. So X would be 175 times the cosine of 56 degrees. Again, I want to make sure my calculator is still in degrees. I'll take 175 times the cosine of 56. And to the nearest tenth of a mile, that gives me X equals 97 point, I think that would round to 97.9 miles. Then over here, I'll call this Y. Y would be the distance east. Again, from the 56-degree angle, that's opposite. So here for Y, I'll use sine. And so I get that the sine of 56 is equal to opposite Y over 175. I have to apologize, I've run out of space. Please leave yourself enough space to do your work legibly. Please do the questions in order so I don't have to search for your work. Please, when you upload your pictures, try to take your pictures in order. Thank you. And so that gives me that Y is 175 times the sine of 56. And so I'm going to go and type 175 times the sine of 56. And I get that Y is 145.08. So that'll round to 145.1 miles east. Any questions on that one? And again, hopefully these questions look familiar from the homework. Last question is a word problem. And it's one of those word problems that would involve a system of equations. It says, at the North Campus of a performing arts school, 10% of the students are music majors. At the South Campus, 90% of the students are music majors. The campuses are merged into one East Campus. If 42% of the 1,000 students at the East Campus are music majors, how many students did each of the North and South campuses have before the merger? So let's let X equal the students at the north. And let's let Y equal the students at the south. When they merge, there's 1,000 students. So one equation will be X plus Y equals 1,000. If 10% of the students at the north are music majors, then 10% would be 0.10 times X. And those are the music majors from the north. And if 90% of the students at the south are music majors, then 90% of Y would be 0.9Y. And so that gives me the music majors from the north plus the music majors from the south. Well, that's 42% of the merged campuses. And so I get 0.1x plus 0.9y equals 420. And so now I have the system to solve. To solve the system, because in the first equation, both x and y have a leading coefficient, have a coefficient, pardon me, of 1. I could solve that first equation for either x or y and use substitution. Or I could use elimination. With this one, I'm going to use elimination, and I'm going to try to eliminate the x's. Because I like whole numbers best, I'm going to take this equation and multiply both sides by -10. If first equation stays x plus y equals 1,000, that second equation, when I multiply by -10, -10 times 0.1 is -1x. -10 times 0.9, y is -9y. And -10 times 420 is -4,200. Now, because the x's are opposites, when I add, they'll add to 0. And I get -8y equals -3,200. And so dividing by -8, I get y is 400. And so we've got 400 students at the North Campus. Well, what would I add to 400 to get 1,000? Going back to that first equation, we'd get 600 students at the South Campus. So if the students at the North Campus, if there's 400 of them, 10% of 400 would give me 40 music majors. At the South Campus, if there are 600 of them, 90% of 600 would be wait, what did I do wrong? Oh, it's because it's 400. Hello, 90% of 400. I apologize. No. I got them mixed up. X was the North. I apologize. The North Campus was the 400. No, X is the North Campus, right? North Campus is 600, 90% of, 10% of 600 is 60. South Campus is 400, 90% of 400 is 360. And so the music majors add up to 420 and it checks. Hello, make sure you write down what the variables represent so that you don't make a careless mistake when you're checking. Sorry about that, folks. I apologize for that brain fart. So how does this look? I think that's, no. Oh, you know what? Hello, I've got the answers attached. There you go. Any questions?
No.
If your test will be similar to this, how do you folks think you will do?
Got
Um,
it.
oh,
Do me a
okay.
favor, please promise me, first of all, that you will do problem set 4. Please promise me you'll do it at least twice so that when you sit down to take the test, there are no surprises. In the same way, please promise me that you will do problem set final, because again, that is a quiz grade. I know some of you have missed several problem sets, a couple problem sets during the course of the semester. I am going to drop the lowest quiz grade, which means one of those zeros is dropped. Please do not skip this one because it would just be another 0. It counts as a quiz grade. And again, especially if you plan on taking that final, do that problem set final a couple of times. Make sure you get a reasonable grade on it so that if you do plan on taking the final, there are no surprises. But even if you're not planning on taking the final, do it a couple times till you get a good grade, because you want this will be your last opportunity to raise your quiz grades. So that having been said, any questions? I know this is a little early, but I thought we'd wait until Friday to start looking at that practice final. So please, please, please work on this, finish the rest of your homework. Does anybody have any questions on anything? Does anybody want to look at anything else today? Be it a homework question, be it something from a back test, something from a back homework? Again, please, please, please work on those back homeworks until you have until Sunday to do that. Please, please, please make sure you take that test by Saturday.
Wait, actually, ma'am, is the test open now?
Give me a second. Let me check and see. Test for, right now, test 4 opens up tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, well, is the problem set open?
Yes, the problem set has been open all semester long. Do it a couple of times before you take the test. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. And the final will open on Monday, and it will be available until the end of the day Wednesday.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
All
After
right,
class,
then have
can
a
we
great
just-
day, you guys. We'll see you on Friday. I hope you feel like you learned something this semester.
Professor,
Yeah?
you mind if we talk over my grade after class? Would it be a better
Not
time?
at all. Let me stop recording.